Maseches Bava Kama Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph Be'ezras Hashem. Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph, the end of the page, the line, we are in Ravina Oma. We're in the third wide line. At the end of the page are wide lines, and Ravina is the man. Ravina is the opinion we're going to Eretz Hashem see today. And further, and the Shiur is Lilu Nishmat of Imur, Menachem Ben Akiva, Rus Bas Shalom, Sor Bas Moshe, Rafos Noch, Lionel Ben Yulia Oria, Besorch, Lea Bas Tomo, Luis Bas Rivko, quick, Besorch Shmuel Avraham Ben Yudis,
and Sarah Bas Nechama.
Sor Bas Nechama, Besorch Shachol Yisrael. Before we continue, let's see where we were holding yesterday was a break. Yeah, not a pleasant one, but a break. So before we continue in the third wide line, what are we talking about? We are talking here about the question, is chazusa milsa or lav milsa? Which in French means, do colors matter or don't they matter? Does color make a difference? Which means, this is not a question about apartheid, you know, if color makes a difference. It's a question, sorry, sorry, South Africans, I'm not trying to insult anybody. The question is, when one has a color in the garment, absorbed in the garment, yeah, the garment is now red and used to be white or whatever. Does that make a difference halachically? At this point, the Gemara's question is regarding money. Let's say if someone stole, for example, we said if someone stole someone's piece of wool and also the dyes, and he dyed the wool. Shall we say now he returned the wool? He says, okay, here's your dyes. Your dyes, you got them back in the shape of a colored, dyed shirt, dyed wool, because the dye has its entity, is considered to be a separate entity, chashivus, important, even when it's absorbed, it's still an entity on its own. Can't you see? It's bright red, crimson and scarlet, shiny, or even black or green or blue or mauve. You know, many colors are only the invention of women. We men don't know them, you know. So yeah, one of these, apricot, peach, I don't know. So here it is. The other side says no. The other side says color, since it's not separate, it's completely absorbed in the material. Yeah, Mimela, it's not a separate entity, and therefore, if you stole the wool that's worth 200, and now the paint, dye, color was also worth 200, now you're giving me, let's say, the wool that is worth 100 or even a little bit more. You still owe me the dyes separately, because the dye inside the wool is not a separate thing, still has to be returned separately. That's generally the question. Now, Ravina has a different way of understanding the question. Ravina doesn't argue on the whole concept, it's just a question. Ravina finds a different application, a different nafkamina to the same question. Ravina Omar, Bezos Hashem. And by the way, this Gemara is before we continue. Chaval, I don't have the whiteboard again. We should really ask the Vad to have the whiteboard kavu over here. Ravina said, don't bring it. Ravina says, I want to teach you before Ravina a term which appears many places in the Meforshim. That term is called mamoni gabach. Mamoni, my money is by you, not you, okay? Mamoni gabach, which means, let's say my money is in your pocket and it's not your fault. The wind blew it there. You didn't steal. You didn't borrow. That's another crime. You didn't, nothing. It's not a man-woman ksuba. Happens to be my money is by you. Do you have to give it back to me? Yes or no? Yes. The mere fact the money is by you means you have to give it back to me regardless of the circumstances. Yeah. A ball fell into your court, my ball into your laundry room. You have to give it back to me. That's also Shavas Aveda, by the way. Yeah. Let's continue. Ravina Omar. What is the case over here in which we try to find out if color is a separate entity? Kigon, for example, it's going to be a weird case, but a very cool case. The tzemer dechad, let's say there was tzemer wool was belonging to one guy, Reuben. The samonin dechad, Binyamin, instead of Shimon. He owned a different item called samonin, the dyes. The kaati koif, came a monkey, a very intelligent, chimpanzee. A koif is just an example for this koif does not belong to anybody. He just ran away all the way from Rwanda. This koif came, the very nice monkeys in Rwanda, and he painted the samemonim, he painted Reuven's wool with the samemonim, with the dies of Shimon. So now, what is the question? Now, Shimon, Binyamin, I'm sorry, Reuven, the wool owner is now very happy. The monkey actually did a great job, or it's a robot, or it's a machine, or it's the wind, or it's whoever, something that does belong to anybody, happens to be now in Reuven's wool, is now absorbed the dye of Binyamin. So now Binyamin knocks on the door and says, excuse me, my samemonim are in your wool. So now you can't extract them, so pay me the money. Now comes the question. Here the question comes loud and clear with red alert. Yesh shvach samonim l'gabe tzemer. If we say that the samonim, the shvach, is al gabe tzemer, is a separate entity, is an important entity, and the quality is clearly judged as a separate financial thing, the omalei havli samenoi. Then the samemonim guy, the dye guy, the collar guy, says to the wool guy, give me my samemonim, the gaboch ninu. They are by you. They are actually in your possession. They are by you. Here they are. Where are they? Well, the collar is an entity. Look, now it's red. Now it's bright and red. Before it was boring white. That collar, that shvach, is something to be returned. It's a separate thing. Now give it back to me. You can't get it out? Okay, I'll accept cash, credit card, Bitcoin, or Schmidtcoin. Pay me a different way. If it's 200 shekels my dye, give me the 200 shekels in form of thing, or else you die. Oy Dilma, or maybe comes the other option. That's our question. Maybe the samemonim, the red color or the green, red, blue, schwarze, whichever color, is just not financially an entity as of its own. It's not a separate thing. The shvach is, of course, the tzemer is worth more. We'll discuss that too. But lamaisa, as of itself, the color is now disappeared into a black hole called the tzemer, inseparable. Therefore, the wool guy will tell the collar guy, you don't have anything by me. Wow. In other words, you don't have any clear thing by me. In other words, let's imagine that a monkey came, a very cool, cute monkey, from the zoos or the children's cartoons. He came and he took your gold watch worth 100,000. He took it, and it doesn't belong to anybody. You can't even blame the zoo. He came all the way from Tanzania. Now he took someone's gold watch and took it up to the neighbor's domain and dropped it there in the manhole. In the sewage. Of course, Shimon will say, I'm so sorry. The monkey is not mine, not under my control. I don't like him as much as you don't. He took your stuff and made it vanish in my possession. Nothing to do with me. It's a chiddush. Even though now he's nehene, and now he has red shirt, and he's not red, he has now a green shirt. He's very happy with the green shirt that was dyed by the monkey. Now, although he has hano, but because it's not something worth money as of its own, and he did not steal, he didn't do hezek. Shimon is an honest guy, or the other guy, the wool guy is a good guy. Therefore, we say that, no, we don't say. We have a tzad, we have a sofek, maybe doesn't owe him anything. That's what we say. Toysus has a question, which I'm not looking at inside. Toysus, the fourth Toysus in the page, asks the following question. And I want you to listen to the question, well, first of all, because listening very nicely, and also because it reminds us of very, very faint memories from the past. I don't know if you remember the first part of the Masechta. Remember animals fighting, animals eating stuff that's not theirs, right? Let's do some chazara. Remember shen, remember teeth? If an animal eats the schoira, an animal eats the fruit of the neighbor, midoraisa, when are you have to pay for the neighbor's expensive papaya, kiwi, mango, pineapples are very expensive in this country. Let's say my animal went and had a very nice suda, a Shabbos suda of all your expensive exotic fruit, and he went into your field and ate it there, and I was like sipping my coffee and learning my mussar, not looking at my behema. Do I have to pay or not? Of course, full, very good. But if the animal was walking down the street and you placed some fruit in the street, like in a stall in the market, in a way where animals are supposed to walk, and my animal ate your very expensive papayas and mangoes and pineapples, does they have to pay you everything? Shh, close. It has to pay you the minimal, which means if I feed my animal what regular animal fodder, whatever that is, the corn they give today, the wheat, the barley, whatever they give, that's what I have to give you. Because midoraisa, I'm not chayiv. I'm not chayiv. My animal, I didn't tell my animal to go there. Yeah, but my animal, and midoraisa, I'm not chayiv of negligence because my animal is allowed to be there. My animal is allowed to walk down the street just like you're allowed to put your pineapple over there. Ooh, that's what's going on. And the guy who screams happens to be right. Yeah, his animal is supposed to walk normally. Animals eat, and therefore, although he's not really chayiv as a mazik, he's not chayiv as a ganav, but lemaisa, your animal's boich, your animal's stomach is full and nehene. You saved supper because you have hano. Because you have hano from me, you have to pay me. Frektois says the same thing over here. Even though the wool owner, is a nice guy, it's a beautiful, amazing, nice guy, big smile, big blue eyes. He just made Aliyah from Cincinnati, such a cute little, it has never harmed anybody. And what still, Lamaisa, you're nehene. Don't tell me, it's not a real entity, therefore not. So what if it's not a real entity? Lamaisa, your sweater being green is now worth more. Before it was white, now it's green, it's worth more. Remember that value, you have hano in your pocket, that's mine. So just like the animal has to, so to here. Answers Toisus, no. The only time, there are two answers. Answer number one is, the only time I'm mechuyev to pay you for hano is if there was an action of somebody owned by me, such as my cow walking down the street. She went moo, and she took the food from you, and she's now nehene that was taking from domain A to B from my animal, and my animal is enjoying it, then I have to pay. But since the monkey here is the UN, the monkey is a very neutral guy over here. He's absolutely not getting involved. According to some people, he's a Zayda, so he's not getting involved, So Mimela what? He's not in the story because there's no taking from something owned by me to somewhere owned by you. It just happened by itself, by the wind, by the monkey. There's no chiyuv, even though there's a no. Not every time you have to pay for no. Because the transition was so minimal and so parev, Mimela, as opposed to my animal taking from you, Mimela don't have to pay. Second answer of Tosis, I'm not going into now because I'm afraid we don't have time. If we have time, it's around 10, 20 something. I'll say the second answer, but for now, I'd like to continue. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I want to add. Tosis says also either the maisa of the behema or hano of his body or hano of his animal. Here, the one nehene, so to speak, is my garment. Indirectly, if I sell it, it's going to be worth more. But it's not a physical hano. It's not a physical hano. Oh, my stomach is full, or my animal stomach is full. The hano is not as clear. Okay, that's the best I can offer for now. Unless you have a very specific question, I'd like to hear it. If not, we'll have to continue. Weiter. If it gets back to you, I'll listen to you even in the middle of the next sugya. Toshma, we're not really in the next sugya. We're now taking that sugya to other realms of halacha. The same question, if color inside or dye in the wool, in the garment, is considered a separate entity or not, also has ramifications not only for money, also for Torah prohibitions of ben adam la mokoim. For example, orla, toshma. Beged shetzvoy beklipe orlo. Let's say a person took fruit. Rashi points out not the bark of the tree. A person took fruit of orla. Let's say some kind of nuts. He says, let's say the klipa. I don't know exactly how that works. Nuts also have a softer klipa. You know that. So bekitzer, somebody took fruit, the rind or the peel of fruit and he produced color out of that. And those fruit happened to be orla. They didn't have to have the halachic. They're less than 3 years old. So you're not allowed to not only eat them, you're also not allowed to enjoy them. You can't have hano. Orla is one of these surim that's unanimously agreed on that everybody knows orla you can't neither eat nor have hano. And somebody stupidly, mistakenly took the orla dye and dyed his garment. He dyed his pants or trousers. You have to burn it. Why burn it? Because it's Isra. No, you can't keep it at home. You're not allowed to sell it. You're not allowed to do anything with it. You can't wear it and you can't shmer it. That's it. So burn it. Frek the Gemara. So not frek. The Gemara wants to derive alma. That is to say, chazul samil sahi. You see that colors make a difference. In other words, if color, if dye absorbed in the garment is nothing, it disappeared into a black hole, and it's as if it's not there anymore. It's only the same garment with a different color, and color is really nothing. It's just some kind of optical illusion, so to speak. It's not substantial. Then orla wouldn't be an issue because it's not here. The whole thing vanished. Elama, you see chazusa, milsa. Listen to the words chazusa, looks, colors. Milsahi, it is something. It's an item. You look at the color as an item, and you constantly nehene when you wear it in your body or you sold it to a guy. Then it's considered as you sold color of orla, dye of orla. So it keeps its separate entity. Oh, here's a proof. Maybe that would prove our question. We're still in a question, right? Maybe that would not prove. Maybe that would answer a question. No, don't bring raya from orla. Orla is a different world. When it comes to orla, the Torah happens to forbid hano hanira le'inaim. Anything that meets the eyes, any hano that the eye can see and everybody can see, Baruch Hashem, that this is red and not white, the Torah locally in orla forbade it. Doesn't mean it's always substantial when it comes to money. The Tanya brings a proof from a Mishnah, Braisa. It says, yeah, one's not allowed to eat the fruit of orla of the first 3 years. Now the Braisa starts talking. I read the Torah and I see you can't eat. You can't eat it. How do you know I can't benefit from it? The law, not only benefit of selling or benefit of, having shower with it, maybe even hanos that are less substantial. Not even to paint, not even to dye with it, which, as we say, may not be so substantial. Let's have oil of orla. Who says I can't burn? I can't use it as fuel for my candle, as oil for my candle, because it disappears. As I'm benefiting it when it disappears, maybe that's okay. It's not okay. Amud loima, da'araltem orlo yispirio arelim lo ya'ochel. I don't know how many times you have extras here. There are a few extra words here of orla, orla, orla. L'rabos eskulom. The Torah is being super strict and the Torah wants to cover all grounds, all types of hano, even hano that I otherwise would not consider as hano, such as paint, such as dye. So even that, all types of hano are osur. Does it mean that when Reuven and Shimon have a fight over the dyed sweater that the monkey died? That we don't know. That's a separate question. That's not orla. That's dinimominous. We have to make this dichotomy, possibly, between different areas of halacha. This is the halachas of orla. This is the halachas of chosh and mishpat, Reuven and Shimon fighting over money. That's not necessarily one to do the other, because they have a pasuk here, and we don't automatically learn mamoinam, as the Gemara says a few places, which interesting the Gemara doesn't say here. Mamoinam isura lo yalfinan is a line in the Gemara a few places. We don't learn always. We don't always learn. There could be exceptions, yeah. We don't always automatically derive and learn a monetary law is not always derived from the ben adam lamokum kind of law. There are two separate stories. Yes. Let's make a beautiful blessing to Hashem. Yeah. Let's talk about Shemitah. Mazel Tov. That's the year of today, the year of Shemitah. We're going to have actually a lot of Shemitah stuff today. Today and tomorrow, we're going to discuss Shemitah, all kinds of things, even that have to do with halacha, lemaise, and also with burning wood, by the way. Toshma, come and listen to the following attempt to answer a question. Again, the question still remains. We did not yet answer the question. Yeah, is color, is dye inside the wool, or by the way, even color on the paint on your table, I assume is the same, or maybe it's less absorbed. I don't know. Color or dye that's absorbed in an item, is it called a separate entity for all intents and purposes, or no? Toshma, come and hear the attempt to answer. Beged shetzvoy beklipe shvis hidolek. There is this item which you dyed with klipe shvis, with the, again, klipa, with the kind of material that you derived from the klipa, from the, from the rind, from the peel, and, or I don't know, the Gemara says klipe, because, Shemitah also applies to strawberries, and you can definitely dye with strawberries, as the Gemara says itself in Shabbos. Lo mishane. B'kitzur, you used Shemitah items in order to paint. Is that allowed? Can you take Shemitah fruit and paint, dye with them? Yes or no? What did your local Orthodox told you? Obviously not. Why? What can you do with Shemitah fruit? Recommendal? Eat, eat and eat, or maybe do other things, or let it rot. Right. You're right. Very good. Well, the leftovers should be left around, not even thrown into the garbage. Everybody knows about delicious. So this Marty Pence guy took the Paris Shemitah and he painted, he dyed his jacket with it, all very nice and fashionable. You have to burn it. Oh, why burn it? I saw in a sefer and also brought down the Miri and another sefer called Kolkol Shvis. It's not the Shemitah is so severe that you have to burn. Shemitah is not also no, you're allowed to eat it. It's not like orla. Elamai, we're talking here in the times of Biur Shvis. In other words, comes a point in the year, and we're all going to experience it this year. If you have real Shemitah fruit in your house, not from Arabs, not from Shishis, not from the South, not from I don't know what. Yeah, don't say the HM word. Yeah, I'm saying not for any of those. Yeah, you have real Shemitah. At some point, what do you have to do? When this fruit does not exist in the field anymore, does not grow in the field anymore, you're not allowed to store it in your house because the Torah does not allow you to basically hoard Paris Shemitah for yourself while it's not available for other people. Begadol, that's the idea. So what most people follow is the opinion of most Rishonim. They say, Mafkir, take it to the Cheder Madrugot, take it to the street, get 3 Jewish adult men and say clear and loud, I am Mafkir. If they won't, they'll take it. And if not, you take it back home. That's all very nice and lenient. The Rambam and other Rishonim, and I think Rashi is with the Rambam, but I'm not sure, they say, no way, Jose. Burn, baby, burn. You have to burn it. No other solution. Ask the rabbi. Yeah, I actually never heard such a chumrah, which I'm surprised. Probably some people in Bnei Brak do that. I don't know. Lemaise, yeah, the Shemitah fruit have to be burnt once the biur comes. Not according to everybody. I'm not saying halacha lemaisa, but according to the Rambam and some other Rishonim, yes. So here, one second. Here, I don't know how the other Rishonim deal with it. The Kalkolis Shabbos was an Achron. He says that's idolic because your because the what you call it your socks that are now very red socks. What's red socks? Something in America, right? The sports team. Now your red socks at the Boston are very hailing. So now you painted your socks red. Well, you're a big fan of them, and the red came from the Shemitah strawberry. Ooh, you have to now burn the thing, burn the socks. Why? Because Shemitah fruit and Shemitah dye, which although it's inside the socks absorbed, is still dealt with as a separate entity. That's why you have to burn it, or maybe massacre it according to others. I don't know. No questions for now. So the choir, you see what? You see that, color is an entity. Chazusa milsa. Chazusa is important. It's a separate being. We don't say it's vanished and it's already mevuar, already because it's inside the fibers. So here is your proof. Again comes the Gemara and answers, no, shiny Hossam, over there it's different. When it comes to Shemitah, there's a special verse in the Bible. The Pasuk says, Tihye. It says about Shemitah, this week's Parsha, this past Shabbos Parsha, Tihye, it says twice, Tihye, it shall be. There's a question exactly how to learn these words, but I didn't really get the whole story there. But Lemaisa, one thing is clear, Tihye always comes to add more. It shall stay that way. It should always be the same. Meaning, even though the color was already absorbed, and I would say, maybe when it comes to monetary laws and other laws, maybe an economy, color in the socks, in the fibers, in the wool, is a goner, it's finished. But Shemitah tells you, no, Shemitah has its own standards, like orla, higher standards. And there the Torah says, even though it's absorbed in your socks, in your I don't know, shirt, wherever, still it's considered as a separate entity, but we cannot learn automatically and extrapolate from there to the other areas in halacha. Question by Rabbi Ben Benis. Turning the page. Aleph Amud Beis. Rove Rami. Rava has a question regarding the same sugya. We're still in the same question. Is color, is a dye separate entity or not? Excuse the pun, but the pun is almost inevitable. We're going to talk now about somebody that died. Yeah, in other words, someone that died. Now, I mean died as the Zichrono Livrocha. And we all know that, let's just have a small akdama. Everybody knows that if a dead man is in the chas v'shalom, in the room, hospital, home, then the house, or as Rashi corrects us, all the items in the house, or most items that receive tumah, are mekabel tumah, right? They become tumah. The kohanim run away before he dies. V'chule. True, yofi, and all the people. V'chule. Now, what happens if, let's say, a dead person, there's a revis dam. Revis is show and tell. There's no blood inside. Don't worry. It's just the delicious tea of Yitzchak. Revis, according to Chazon Ish, is about this. Is about the majority of disposable cup. Yeah, 146 cc. I think I'm very bad with numbers. It's something like that. Yeah, I'm machmir. So let's say you have that chas v'shalom amount of a dead person's blood expected from a dead man. He died, and then the blood kept gushing out. Chas v'shalom, yeah. And then if this amount of blood, let's say in a cup, just to make it nicer and clearer, is in a room, the dead man is in hospital, but it's a lab. It's a lab, and they took her vis down from a dead guy. I don't know, as a lab to check something. Now the entire lab, the entire room is tomeh, because it says nefesh. The nefesh of the dead person is metameh the room. Nefesh is what? Blood. Yadam wa nefesh. We'll all talk about it on Shabbos. Yeah, Adam is the nefesh. So revis dam from a dead person is metameh the house. Once we said that, all is very nice. Let's continue. Rove Rami. Rove Rami. What does Rami mean? Asks a question from one brisa to another, or from one mishnah to another. Yeah, Rove is now, basically showing us a question, a contradiction between a mishnah and another one. Tanan, it says in the mishnah we just quoted, beged shetzvoi beklipe orla yidale. A beged that was dyed with orla colors has to be burnt, because you look at the color, at the dye, as an entity as of itself. You have orla, burn it. Alma, that is to say, chazus amil sahi. So see from here that looks do matter. He ignores the previous answer. The previous answer was that this is a local thing by orla. Says Tosfos, he views that answer as, that's important for you people to know. Sometimes the answer of the Gemara is the final answer. Sometimes it's an optional answer, and still leaves room for other questions. This is here. Kuf Aleph Amud Beis. Rava himself gave an answer, but now Rava says, that was a potential answer. It's a dichui. It was a good thing to stave off, to swat the flies, lahavdil. But it's not the final answer necessarily. I still remain with my thought that if orla is chazus amilsa, then I have a question from a different place. Urmini is challenging it from another mishnah, from a completely different story. Revi's dam, our favorite Revi's dam we spoke about before. The Revi's dam of a dead person that came into a house. What's the story? All the items are tomeh. Revi's dam shenivleo babayis. Revi's dam was absorbed in the floor. Remember that back then, like in some parts of Black Africa, right? Back then, most houses were not tiled, right? So let's say that Revi's dam, that cup with a revis, the so-so cc of blood, was spilled into the floor, into the ground of the house. And I just want to give you inside information, general information, that I learned it recently I'm doing Tyrus now, by the way, that if a dead person is buried under the ground, or even whatever parts of the body of a person are buried under a house, and you can't see anything, still the entire house is common. So being underground doesn't really help you. Okay, l'choira. However, the blood here was absorbed into the dirt, into the earth of the floor. Abayis tame, the entire house is tame. Says Rashi, not the walls or the floor, because they never received tuma. The items in the house, the dishes, the people, abayis tame. The amri lo. However, there's another mishnah that says abayis tahor, that the house is tahor. How could that be? But don't worry, it's not a machlokas. That alone is okay. Which means when the thing is completely absorbed, that it's not considered as a separate entity, it's absorbed in the ground. The blood is absorbed in the ground completely. That's not called that the blood is there anymore. So what? If there are dishes that were there originally, what do you mean originally? When the blood was spilled on the floor at the beginning, it takes a few seconds, a few minutes, till the puddle of blood gets absorbed. When the puddle of blood was visible, was on the surface, then of course it's metameh. And then you had a let's say some dishes, a Chinese vase, and some cutlery, whatever, together with it in the room, they're tameh. But if the thing was completely absorbed and is now went into nowhere, because by the way, this is not part of our sugya, don't get confused. If something is absorbed in the ground and it cannot be seen anymore, that's it. It's absorbed in the ground, it is sponja, can't see, can't hear it, can't feel it, can't smell it. Even though the blood is somewhere in there, that's for sure considered that it vanished into thin air. And therefore, the dishes that came at that point, somebody brought, after the blood was absorbed, somebody brought from the supermarket, from the dishes store, they brought new items, cutlery and cheres and whatever, they're not tameh because they came after the tumor was absorbed. That, by the way, is not a question because you can't see it. Because if the blood cannot be seen and is absorbed, no question that the blood is considered as nothing, zero, nada. However, now comes our question. Now let's gear up. Nivla b'ksus. Let's say the blood was absorbed in a ksus. For example, a ksus is an item, a garment. Let's say the man, while somebody killed him, he was wearing a shirt, which is most the case, yeah? Now you have blood absorbed in a shirt, let's say, and somebody brought that shirt into the house. Somebody brought a blood, not blood soaked the entire thing. Imagine yourself more like a stain of blood, let's say by the heart, a stain of blood that is in the shirt, nivla'o. It's absorbed in the shirt, let's say, the blood, and he brought that shirt into the house. And now, if we measure it, if I wanted to, let's say there's a way of measuring, very complicated. Let's say I figure out that in this shirt you have revi'is of dam. Yeah, I could tell that there's this amount of blood in the shirt. I got a scientist and a rabbi to prove that. So now depends. Nivla b'ksus, is the house tameh? Now the house has a shirt with revi'is dam absorbed inside. Says the Mishnah, let's check it out. If in theory, now the assumption is that maybe today's detergent is different. Let's say you do some hand washing to the blood, the entire blood wouldn't get out. Let's assume so, okay? Let's say back then you wash it like that. Let's assume that you can't get everything out of the shirt. So if, let's say, had you wanted to wash and launder that shirt, then you would have managed to get her vizdam outside, and only because there's more than revis. If there's more than revis in the shirt, and therefore if I wanted to, I can easily get revis out of the shirt if I want to, meaning one revis out of the revis plus can be extracted out, then we view it as a separate entity, tameh, and then the house is tameh, the in love. But if I have exactly one revis of blood, the rabbi and the scientist and the mathematician and the biologist, they all stood there and they know there's exactly one revis of blood in that shirt. So if I want to wash it, I'll never be able to wash. Again, we're not talking today's washing machines and Ariel powder. Let's say a primitive washing would not get the whole thing out. So really, the part that's extractable of the shirt is less than revis. So it's not looked at as a separate entity. Tohor. Then the house is tohor. It's not a mistake. Tohor, it's not. It's tohor. The house is tohor. Says Rashi, the shirt is always coming because the shirt absorbed the revis. The house. Wait a second. So what are we saying here? All of a sudden, we don't care about the fact that it's visible. So what do you see here? You say no. The blood is only considered a separate entity if it could, in theory, get out of the shirt. If it can manage to get it out of the shirt. Why? If you tell me that chazusa milsa, if you say that anything absorbed in the wool still maintains its entity by itself, I don't need the favor of the detergent, maybe it will get out. Elamai, what do you see? Like the other side, you see clearly that chazusa lav milsa. We see from here, in order to answer the question, right? We see that chazusa is not milsa, and yet by orla, what did we see? By orla, we saw that chazusa is milsa. By orla, we saw that colors matter. colors, even once absorbed. Oh, burn it, burn it. We get fanatical over here. Because why? It's mamish, look, the fruit is separate. It's as if you have a cherry on top of the shirt and not inside the shirt. And here on the other end, when it comes to the mace, we don't say that if the shirt is dyed with blood, then we see that the color makes a difference, only because it can be extracted. But the fact that it's absorbed inside does not make a difference. What's going on over here? Omar Rav Kahana, answers Rav Kahana, no. Over there, it's a different story. Heilige Rav Kahana, Mikule Revios Shonu Kan. Over there, the case of the blood is not a regular case of a blood that gushed out of a dead man. It's a special case which is more lenient. Why is it more lenient? Bedam Tvusa de Rabbanon. Welcome to a new term. A new term, maybe for some of us, maybe some of us know it. Dam Tvusa de Rabbanon. I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you do. In the Seder night, we celebrate, right? Seder night, the Passover Seder, the traditional Passover Seder, we say, Be'erech mispossesses bedomaich, right? And what does it mean, mispossesses bedomaich? I just made Aliyah a day ago, and I don't know Hebrew at all. So what does it mean? Misberech, Hashem tells Klal Yisrael, I saw you mitbosses in your blood. You say it every year, so I'm sure you know what you're saying. So what does it mean, mitbosses bedomaich? Mitbosses bedomaich means that you are like falling in the blood. Litbosses bedam means that the person dies, is mitbosses means it's like collapsing. Yeah, I saw you like collapsing into your puddle of blood. Or wallowing in blood would also be fine. I'm sure there are better translators than me, but what I'm saying is not just modern Hebrew, it also has to do with this. As the person is the chas shalom, the process of dying, so to speak, is mitbosses, meaning as the blood comes out of the dead person, let's say it's an injury, and he's slowly but surely losing blood and thus dying, that's called lehitbosses, okay? That's for sure one translation, definitely based on the Gemara, not in my fantasy or my knowledge of Hebrew, by the way, which is also true. In modern Hebrew, we also said, lehitbosses bedam is you see a person like, in a puddle of blood, dying in puddle of blood, that is mitbosses. That's what I said also in the newspaper, Lav. In any event, dam tvusa means as follows. When the blood comes out of a live person, blood test. My daughter had a blood test this morning, deserves a prize. Yeah. Blood test, the person has revis taken out. Is the dam metameh? No. It's dam from a live person. Dam lo aleinu from a dead person is metameh. What did it say? The live person is not metameh. The dead person is metameh. What happens if, well, the camera didn't catch exactly what was going on? And I took blood from a puddle of blood, and I don't know if that revis blood came from when he was alive, out of his body, he was still alive, could be, yeah, which a wound when he was still alive, or it came from the stage when he was already dead. Could also be, right? He already lost enough, he's brain dead, I don't know. Or half. That blood, misofek, is only with the rabbanon. That blood, as of itself, you have dam tvusa, dam that came from the process. There's a big machlokes in Nida, exactly how to define that. Whatever, but what I'm telling you is for sure, one opinion, 1,000,000%. It's a blood that came out as the guy was dying. We don't know if it's Tomei or Tohor. In case of doubt, Rabbanon forbid it. Rabbanon not forbid, Rabbanon metameh it. Rabbanon labeled it as Tomei. In the lab, in the halacha lab, they put a sticker, Tomei with the Rabbanon. So therefore, says the Gemara of Kahana, you can't prove anything. The whole story of the shirt, with the blood-soaked shirt, that we are being lenient. We're being lenient, and we don't say that color is everything. While we say color is nothing, it does not necessarily mean anything for a sugya. It doesn't necessarily reflect anything. It's a Rabbanon. It could be Rabbanon, could be we're more lenient. Because Rabbanon are Rabbanon. Rabbanon are sometimes lenient in their opinion, in their application, and therefore in that case of dam tvusa, then we say, okay, that the blood in the shirt is not looked at as just by the aspect of it, but the looks of it. You have to see if it can get out of a laundry. When it comes to orla, it's the oraisa. You saw another oraisa. You saw another oraisa. We're being more strict, and we say that looks do make a difference, and color makes a difference. 2 dots, and we're still on more or less the same sugi after the 2 dots. We're in the middle of Kuf Aleph on the base. in the two dots, and we're all listening now to the question of Ellen. Two dots, two dots, two dots. Rove Rami. Rove asks a question, and we're going to learn now about Kedusha Shvis. Kedusha Shvis. We know about Kedusha Shvis. We're going to learn even more about Kedusha Shvis. Yeah? Tnan. It says in the Mishnah. Mimin Hatsoivin. Oh, here comes the question regarding Min Hatsoivin. You have Sovin, you have roots, bark of tree, and mainly roots, tree. We're not talking about fruit. We're talking here about parts of the actual tree, the trunk, the roots, the non-edible part, the inedible parts of the tree, and they're good for, and they're meant for, and they're listen to what I'm saying. I'm being exact. They're normally used and normally planted for one purpose: color. I don't know what they do today, whatever. But these things are normally used and meant to be used by most of the population. Back then, maybe they're normally used as source of dyes. Okay. Miminat soivin, says the Mishnah in Shvis, as it enumerates different types. Spiche sitim v'koitza. Sitim and koitza are different types of colors. Kulkum, I always forget how you say it in English. Turmeric. It came to me. Turmeric, there was once a dye I had, which was on turmeric. It has very, very strong yellow color. And we couldn't get it off the tablecloth or something. Even it's very, very strong yellow color. I assume even today maybe they use it. I don't know. For dyes, maybe. Basically, it's a very strong color. So sitim v'koitza, those plants that are meant for coloring, yesh lehen shvis, uladmein shvis. Shvis applies to them. Shvis applies to them means what? That you're supposed to treat them with Kedusha Shvis. You're supposed to treat them with Kedusha Shvis, and you're not allowed to color with them. You're not allowed to paint or dye or color with them. Why? Because that's called schoiro. How do you know to use Kedusha Shvis, by the way? Who told you that? Your rabbi is brainwashing you. How do you know that you're not allowed to take not to take the orange of Shvis and just smear it on my face because I think it's cool if I'm a teenager? How do you know I can't just, play ball with it? How do you know? Because it says in the Torah, one tiny word, le'ochlo. You can have the fruit of the land to eat. Really? What's the chiddush? What, in the first and 6 years I couldn't eat it? Of course I can eat the pear shvis. Le'ochlo comes to tell me, le'ochlo v'lo l'schoiro, right? Le'ochlo, only to eat and not to do business with. Le'ochlo v'lo le'melugma, not for medical reasons, medicinal things. Le'ochlo v'lo le'hefsed, not to just waste it. The word le'ochlo is the magic word that tells you only for eating. And since this is meant for dyeing, for coloring, don't use it for dyeing. You're not allowed to use it for. Rashi, by the way, learns, interestingly, that this is under schoiro. Schoiro is forbidden. Anything to do with business or even coloring for your own hana is like schoiro. It's not eating. Anything that's not for eating is also. And continues the Mishnah, yesh lein biur, uladmein biur. And also you have to burn it or mafkir it, whatever biur means, yeah. Admein biur. Unless you want to be smart, you're going to sell it to Mackenzie, which is also a problem. You're going to sell him what? Those roots that are for dyes. Mackenzie wants to color his socks. And I have the money. The Kedusha goes on the money. And you have to, what? You have to destroy the money. Alma, that is to say, one thing we see clear. Eitzim, yesh behen mishum Kedusha shvis. Okay. So now, here's a good question. Pieces of wood, do they have Kedusha shvis? Yes. Well, so far, the one example we saw, yes, these are not fruit. In other words, I started off this Gemara, not me. The Gemara sounds like the Gemara started this discussion with the basic assumption of every fruit need that Perush Shvis, of course, Kedusha applies to. Everybody knows that Perush Shvis, I can't take the tomato Shvis and, throw tomatoes on those speakers I don't like. Yeah, you have to eat the tomato and make sure every milligram is eaten. Everybody knows that, fruit and vegetables. But what about wood? What about usable wood? Maybe yes, maybe no. Apparently yes. The one example we saw so far, we have wood that's usable for paint, and I'm not allowed to use it for paint. What can you do with it? Nothing. Treat it with kedusha. Leave it in your backyard. You use it never. I don't know. B'mevar, it comes a time and burn it. Alma, or don't pick it to begin with. Don't take it from the field. Etzim yesh kedusha shvis, the remini. Here comes another, again, Ramini is like Rami. Ramini is again the same lotion of a question from one Mishnah to another. Ale konim v'ale gefonim. Oh, anybody here that's familiar with Sephardi cooking knows about ale gefen, or maybe even Ashkenazim know about it. Ale konim v'ale gefonim. Ale gefonim are vine leaves, and that's a delicacy by some people. So let's say a person collected the leaves of the reeds, of the kanim, whatever they are. Ale gefonim are the leaves of the vine, of the grapes. Shegibevon bechove al pnei asode. Legabev, he piled them up secretly. Doesn't mean secretly. He means he wants to use it as a stash for next year. He's accumulating them. He's hoarding them by the field. What is his purpose? This is Shemitah. He's taking those leaves of the vine during Shemitah. He goes up north to the Golan, to the Galil. Very nice vines over there, vineyards. He takes the leaves and he collects them and makes a pie for himself. Let's watch this guy. Liktan lachila. If he wants to eat them because he likes to eat, you fill them with rice, right? Oh, I know something. You know, I'm also Sephardi at heart. Yeah, you. He's gonna get. It's cholipches, but Sephardi. Right, very good, very good. Yeah. Okay. Right. The kid said this guy wants to make Sephardi cholipches, and what does he do? He took the vine leaves for eating. Wow, that's your purpose? Yes, ben mishum kedusha shvis. Mimela kedusha shvis applies because your kavanah, mister, your intention was to use it as food. It goes by you, very individualistic. You want to use it for food? Well, it is food, mister. Now you have to treat those vines with kedusha shvis. You can't now go and wipe your sweat with those leaves, let's say, le'etzim. But if his purpose was for etzim, he wants to use them for, let's say, firewood. As wood, firewood, let's say. And ben mishum kedusha shvis. Listen to that. All of a sudden, if my purpose is not for eating, mashma, any purpose of the wood or the leaves of the non-edible parts, I use them not for eating, then there's no kedusha shvis. What? Wait a second. You told me a minute ago that even though those roots or whatever are for color, for dyes, and I mean to collect them for dyes, they have kedusha shvis. Now you told me that if I collect those alig fonim and they're just for wood, just for fire, just for non-edible things, not for culinary reasons, they don't have kedusha shvis. Oh, Mashani answers the Gemara. Now comes a very big yesod in kedusha shvis, which we should all know. Le'ochla, I told you the magic word. Le'ochla is the word. Hashem told you it's only for eating. What does it mean? B'mi shana osa ubi'uroi shovim. Yotzu eitzim shana osan acha bi'uron. If this is Greek for you, I'll translate. Hana osai ubi'uroi shovim means as follows. The Torah tells you, you know when kedusha shvis applies? If the hano, the enjoyment, the fun, I'm using very coarse language, yeah? Now, of course, I'm using very simple language, yeah? The enjoyment, the good stuff, the hano, and the biu, the vanishing, yeah, the finishing off, happens the same time. That's eating. Don't now go into all the details of food, exactly how it's inside the stomach, the digestive system, but begadol, yeah, when you know, what's your favorite food? No, quick, yeah? When you eat into your blinches, yeah. When you eat into your milky blinches Shavuos morning, you bite, it's already destroyed. Nobody else would want to eat from your mouth, right? Not even your best friend. And the palate is already having fun. The hano and the biu, the finishing off of the product, and the hano, the enjoyment, come in tandem. They come together. That's the Torah's hagdara, the Torah's definition for something with kedusha shvis applies. And therefore, I'm feeling Rashi does a lot of coloring in over here. Excuse the pun. Coloring, and this is Ellen what I told you before. When you use dyes, yeah. When you use dyes, so dyes in that respect have kedusha shvis, or any types of trees which are miyuchad davka for dyeing, for coloring, they're also like eating. Why? Because when you take those herbs or those roots, you put them in the, you put them in the hot pot with hot water, and they start dissolving, then hana is, I have color. Even though I didn't yet use the color, I'm producing color. So wow, look, the water is becoming full of that beautiful yellow turmeric color, yeah? So the hana and the biu, it's finished. It's already being cooked. You can't use it again. Can't eat it now. Can't do anything. Mimela, because the enjoyment and the finishing off the bi'u are together at the same time, they have the same standard as eating. So therefore, fruit or vegetables that I eat, and as I consume them, that's a better word in English, they're being consumed as I'm enjoying it, that, no questions. Lusha Shvis applies. I'll hear you soon. Lusha Shvis, the same thing applies to who? Applies to trees or woods or pieces of wood of color, because they're also, when I produce the color and enjoy the fact, oh, I have color, it's happening at the same time as they are being consumed, as opposed to, what was your question? From those leaves of the vine that I'm using for what? For burning. Yotsu eitzim, second to last line, that excludes pieces of wood or leaves. Shanaoson achar biuron. The assumption is that eitzim, let's say normally pieces of wood that are used for what? Let's take the most Western example that we think nowadays in an urban lifestyle. When do we use wood as fire? Don't tell me fireplace. I live in Israel. Yeah, barbecue. When you make barbecue, do you enjoy the pieces of wood as the fire is on? No. Later, when it's a hot coal, that's when it's good. So you first the eitzim are kole, the mevu'ar, they're burning, the burnt, and then you enjoy them. On such a thing, there is no kedusha shvis. So let's summarize. I really would like to have maybe tomorrow the whiteboard. I'll try and remember. The story is like this. We have two groups over here, and so far the groups are very simple. It's not a complicated sugya, really not. Group number one is food and colors. Group number two are firewood or fire leaves. Yeah, the food and the colors, the common denominator, and the ostan ubiron shove. As they vanish, as I enjoy the enjoyment, the vanishing, the consumption is all together. And that's what the Torah defines as kedusha shvis. So don't paint with them, only eat them when they're edible. If they're not edible, don't use them as paint. What do? Go to Mahmoud and buy his, I don't know, don't paint. When it comes to firewood, it's used for fire, for coals, then the main enjoyment is after the fire is over. The fire is burning, made it into hot coals. Here comes the big thing, the steaks, schnitzels, not the schnitzels, huh? The big steaks, yeah, the sausages, the hot dogs. You know what a hot dog is? Of course you know. Yeah, the Americans don't put dog in the thing, yeah. And then comes the fun, comes now the thing, the hano comes after the beer. Their kedusha shvis doesn't apply. Therefore, firewood has no kedusha shvis. And if my kavana was to use those leaves for fire, there's no kedusha shvis. Thank you for your patience. I'll just continue one more line because it may be your question, and I'll listen to your question, I promise. Frag the Gemara, what about fireplace? You tell me, people from Chutzatz, I only used fireplace once in my life, and it was very difficult. How does fireplace work? You have real fire there, or you have coals? What's better? I know I also put. You put wood in the fireplace? No, but let's say it's empty. And you start lighting it, and then what happens? I know fire goes. And what do you want? You have the fire or the coals afterwards? What's preferable? It's the fire. Oh. You want the heat, you don't the cold. Frag the Gemara, very good. Frag the Gemara, based on what you just told me. The Ika Eitzim, the Mashchan, the Naothon Biron Shovin, question mark. Frag the Gemara, why are you being so why do you generalize and you tell me all firewood, you only enjoy firewood after it's finished and you use it as coals for the barbecue or for heating other things, whatever, for the sometimes you have firewood that you enjoy as it's on. As, for example, says Rashi, there are types of wood that are used as torches. Even without having sophisticated torches, took a piece of wood that burns nicely, nice and slow enough. You know, the next Achnasa Sefer Torah, the kids would walk with that, and the mothers would go crazy. Yeah, and as you enjoy it as the fire is on, what will you say then? You just told me all firewood is what? Is considered to be non-kedusha shvis because first they're finished, they're burnt, and then comes the no. What would you say about the fireplace? What would you say about the torch, which I'm enjoying it as for the light, because I need to see the way as a torch, yeah, as I go along? What would you say then? You see that sometimes firewood, does happen at the same time. So it is like achila. It is the same standard like achila in colors. Because the no and beer is the shav. I don't care. It's not achila. So with all due respect, don't miss the point. Coloring is not achila either. But because coloring shares the common denominator of achila v'ano coming together at the same time. So a firewood, like in your fireplace, you like the light, you like the flames, and you want the flames. So as it's vanishing is exactly when you are having your ano, l'chor, then Kedusha's fee should apply for the special wood for the fireplace. Or for that's the question. Omarov, a quick answer, and tomorrow I promise to continue. Omarov, Stam eitzim lasoken oimdin. Says Rav as follows. Most eitzim are for hasoka, for warming the house. And back then, my friends, they needed coals. I don't know about today's fireplace, but hasaka, as the way they were masik, the way they heated their homes was with coals. Yeah, maybe today there's also such a system. I'm sure you know a lot about it. 1 second. In any event, majority rules. Since most trees, says Rashi, most wood, that's firewood, is used for first burning and then comes the ano, even though there are types of wood that are not like that, and by then it's all happening together, we don't care. Majority rules, with all respect to individualism and this and that, it's all very nice. We're not in San Francisco right now. We have a general rule. And the general rule is wood, and says Rashi, more lomdesha agdora, that item, that hefza, kedusha shvis never applied to. Wood that's just wood for fire, the Torah already said that belongs to a group called Einanos of Yuroy. You're smart, you want to use them at the same time, very nice for you, creative guy. Lamais says general rule, firewood is one thing. It's not meant to be used normally, 80% of the time, I don't know, is not meant to be used as hano while it's burning. The normal way is to have them burnt as hot coals, finished with no flame, and then starts the fun. Yeah, then starts the thing. And therefore we say, no, we say fire. So now we have three groups. We have three groups. One group is what? Food and colors, or colorings, dyes, but then you enjoy them as they vanish, as they're consumed, for sure, Kedusha Shvis. The other extreme is firewood. Firewood, I don't care what you think about it. This kind of fireplace, that kind of torch. Firewood is no Kedusha Shvis, because normally it's used to be burnt and then hano. The middle group, by the way, are the vine leaves. Vine leaves are very powerful. Some 50% of people like to burn them, and 50% of the people, more or less, don't get me on the thing, like to eat them. Oh, here depends what your kavanah is. Here the Torah leaves room for individuality. A question: does Judaism acknowledge individuality? Sometimes. When it comes to the vine leaves, depends. Because they're in the middle, in between, depends if your kavanah is eating. Of course, it's like the tomato of Shemitah in your Oitzer Beis Din. And if they're meant for firewood, that was your kavanah, then in Echnam there's no Kedusha Shvis. Three groups, and with that we're going to stay. We're going to discuss it more, but that's basically the rule. So we know now that you can use the firewood on Shemitah, no Kedusha Shvis. Next time you buy your what you call it, your thing of Kedusha Shvis, your dyes, the shoresh. If you buy any primitive kind of dye, not the real dye, the root. You buy the root, you're gonna dye with, so it does have Kedusha Shvis. So don't use it for coloring. Okay? Questions are welcome now. Thank you very much. Please come. It says no, but by the way, I just want to one more comment. Could they made a mistake here? Because Lamaisa, even the fire, even the fireplace, Lamaisa, it's already burning. It's ready, it can't be taken out of the fire. So I think it's also called that it's burnt and then you enjoy it. You enjoy the flame. The Rashi Dafka uses an example of a stick of like a branch that is burnt on top, but the bottom you can still hold. So then it's burning, you know what I'm saying, while you're in a hene. But could be the firewood is considered like coals. Could be. Okay, thank you very much. Question time. Yeah. Have a good day. Sure.